Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you. And I'm allowing the emotion to move through me, and I feel your appreciation, and that is an appreciation for us. That is an appreciation for the communities who did this. And let me tell you, right now, there are actually 105,580 of the most vulnerable people in housing, right? And that was by the 186 communities that were part of this movement. And there's really only one question, which is, how did they do that, right? And I have the answer. And I swear to God, there are no coincidences. On my flight on the way here, because I fly Virgin and there's always movies, I watched The Matrix for maybe the 10th time in my life. And for those of you who haven't seen it or who didn't quite understand, I'm going to break it down. People live within a machine and they don't even know it, right? And then there's this guy Morpheus who approaches the main character Neo and gives him a choice to break out of the machine. And what represents that choice is the blue pill, you stay in the machine, and the red pill is freedom, right? And creativity and possibility. Not necessarily safety or security, but possibility. And Neo has that choice. And what I want to submit to you is that all of us right now in our sector are at the same choice point that Neo was at. Blue pill, red pill. You know, the machine or creativity and freedom and zero. That's the way we're going to get to zero, is to get out of the machine. Now, to get out of the machine, right? So to get out of the machine, to escape the machine, and I would say that the communities doing the campaign have started doing that, or if they haven't done it all completely, first you have to see the machine for what it is. So what I want to do is shine a great big spotlight on that machine so you can see it, because it's so woven into the fabric of what we do in our day-to-day lives. It's like you couldn't even see it, right? It's just all in your face. Okay, so I'm going to break it down. So I'm going to show you first how the machine deals with data, right? So let me talk about the blue pill for a second. Here's my perfect example of how the machine deals with data. Is we go to our point in time counts, right? And those are good things. We need to know how many people are out there. Arguably, I would say we need to know everybody by name, but the number's a good start. And then we pay somebody else a couple $100,000 to spend 7 months adding up the number of people we found, right? Like, it's just math, And so then sometime a couple months after we did this thing, nobody even remembers that we did it, right? We know, it either went up or it went down, right? And if it went up, we schedule a great big press conference and we gloat about how awesome we are, right? And if it went down, we find somebody else to blame, something else to blame, right? Like, I've seen press announcements like, well, it went up, but the economy's bad, That's what the Matrix does. The Matrix, you can blame people. You can always find something else, someone else to blame when you're in the Matrix, because guess what? The Matrix set it up that way. This is the Matrix that we are living in, is that we as taxpayers, we as a society, have set it up with the way that money goes down from all of our money as taxpayers, and the federal government gets it, and they give little buckets to little groups of people. The housing authority gets this, and the continuum gets that, and the mental health people get that. And it's so distributed and so diffuse that no one actor in any given community has sufficient resources or authority to truly be responsible for ending homelessness, right? Yeah, feel free to boo when we talk about the Matrix, all right? It's okay. So that's what we've set up, okay? Now let me show you what life is like outside the Matrix, right? This is the red pill. Outside the matrix, we face into data daily. We don't do it once a year, and we don't wait 7 months for someone else to tell us how many people we counted. We do it every single day. And the only number that matters on the way to zero, and I believe we can get there, is your takedown target. And let me tell you what your takedown target is. It's the total number of people you need to house, and that would include new people becoming homeless. So that total number, right? You with me? This is math. I was a mathlete, so this is easy for me.
How long have you been doing what you do?
I really did math competitions in grade school. Divided by the number of months left until we say we're going to end something, which for veteran homelessness would be 16 months from now, and for chronic homelessness would be 16 plus 12, big number, okay? That is your monthly takedown target. And what I want to suggest to you is if that number isn't tattooed on your face every single day when you get up and you're like, am I doing good or is it not working? Do I need to do something differently or are we on a good course? You're still in the matrix. That's the number that matters. So find out what your takedown target is and tattoo it to your face, but do it reverse so when you look in the mirror, it's the right number. All right? All right, we got data. That's what the matrix does with data, and that's what not being in the matrix is with data. Let's talk about what action looks like inside the matrix, and I think action is being generous, okay? Here's what action inside the matrix looks like is, that might be a good idea, but perhaps we should do a feasibility study first. And let's pay somebody, tens of thousands of dollars to suggest to us whether or not we should try something, right? Matrix loves that one. We read academic literature, and there are things that are proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, and then we say, oh, this might work. Let's do a very small pilot study. And then the pilot study works, shocker, and then they say, oh, let's do another pilot study, just to be sure, right? That's what the matrix wants. That's action. Here's another thing that is insidious throughout the matrix, is we wait until we have consensus before we try to do something. Let me tell you who's the worst offender of that is everyone on the West Coast. Y'all some consensus-loving people, right? You know who I'm talking about, right? Okay. So here's the thing, and Jake told me I'm allowed to read this one because I don't want to get this one wrong, is within the matrix, right? Perfection truly is the enemy of the good, and it leads to inertia, which is basically negligent homicide for people on the streets. We don't have time for this, all right? Now let me tell you what action looks like outside the matrix, red pill. And this is my favorite story of the whole 100,000 Homes campaign, and it happened 2 years before the campaign even launched. So I want to tell you the story of my favorite Neo, which is Martha Cagle from Unity of New Orleans. Martha, you here? Martha, raise your hand. All right, hey Martha. All right. So back in 2008, Martha brought us to do a registry week. This was years before this was happening across the country. And they went out and surveyed everybody, and we did our briefing, where we show, here's the most vulnerable person sleeping outside, and we had their picture, and Martha started crying. And she stopped the meeting, and she pointed across the room to her very best outreach worker, and she said, go house that man right now. The guy got up from the meeting and left, and the guy was in housing by the end of the day, right? So 2 things to that. 1, crying is the right response when we face into how vulnerable people are, right? And that's a bias for action. That's what happens outside the matrix, is we don't say, well, we should form a committee about this, you just go house the person, right? That's what I'm talking about, and that's what we don't have room on this stage for all 60 communities that are in the 2.5% club, right? But that's what all 60 communities who are the 2.5% club did. This is fun, all right. So, last thing, learning inside the matrix, all right? And I'm gonna go against some sacred cows here. Inside the matrix learning, this is what it looks like. It's like, yeah, I know that saved money in that other city, but we need to do our own cost study, right? And how many more cost studies do we need, people, right? Like we know these things, right? Or we say like, well, it worked for the pilot, but we should pay someone a couple $100,000 to prove that it worked. That would be a good use of money, right? And then the pinnacle is to get something published in a peer-reviewed journal. And for some people, that is their bread and butter, is getting published in academic journals. I read academic journals. I've been published in an academic journal once. It was a big deal. It took a year and a half of resubmission to get in the peer-reviewed journal. Did anybody read it? That's right. I knew none of you read it. That's right. And who cares? You know why? Because if you had, there's actually research that shows that it takes 17 years from the time something is published in a peer-reviewed journal until the point at which it is fully implemented at scale in the field. 17 years. Jim O'Connell's research on vulnerability published 16 years ago. We got less than a year to go. All right? Now, it is a little ironic that this, too, is something in a peer-reviewed journal. But my point is, we don't even have 17 months to end veteran homelessness. It's not that these are bad things. It's just that we don't have time right now to rely upon that process to get to zero. And so let me show you what life outside the matrix looks like for learning. Now, my favorite story for this happens to be my wife, Christine Marge. All right? That's right, who's amazing. And I know from the behind the scenes what she's really doing every day. And she leads Home for Good in Los Angeles. And it's truly stunning. Okay, we've all heard over the years, like, Los Angeles is the homeless capital of the world, and boo, 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 like, it's so terrible there, Let me tell you what Los Angeles did. First of all, how long have they been talking about doing a coordinated entry system? Ever since the Hearth Act came out, right? Like, I don't even remember when the Hearth Act came out, right? And y'all, we've known we need to do coordinated entry, and there are still communities that are having meetings about what would be the best coordinated entry system. And I know that that tool is approved and very good, but we need our own tool, and that will take some time, right? Let me tell you what Los Angeles did with a coordinated entry system. Los Angeles did coordinated entry in 100 days. Boom, right? Boom, yeah. And guess what? It wasn't perfect, right? It wasn't perfect at all, but people are getting housed through it, and they're improving it every single day. And that's that, like, using data for learning, for course correction, a bias toward action. I think that typifies what we're talking about. It's like the gold standard, is just do something, right? So this is my last chance to talk to you as the director of the 100,000 Homes campaign. And I imagine it's possible that I ruffled a few feathers here right now, and maybe I scared you a little bit about what life is like outside the matrix. It's very different from life inside the matrix. And Nan, where are you, Nan? I want to acknowledge you. That was like a total red pill move to let me talk in my last 10 minutes. Right? Thank you. I really appreciate that. Total red pill. I know it can be scary to live outside the matrix. It's actually a lot of freedom, and coping with that much freedom can be scary. But here's one thing I want to give you to reassure you for the journey to zero, and I know you're going to go there, right? Is that the aircraft that's going to take you home tonight or tomorrow will get you to where you're going, right? You will most likely, I'm flying Los Angeles, I'm pretty certain I'm going to end up in Los Angeles tonight, right? But let me tell you how it's going to get there. It's going to get there by being off course 99% of the time. That's how aircrafts get where they're going, is by being off track 99% of the time. They just a little bit off track, and then they get back on track. Basically, they're constantly off track. So here's my big point. Is everybody listening? Big point. It's okay to be wrong, right? And if you take that red pill, if you jump out of the matrix, I got news for you. You're going to be wrong a lot, And that's okay, because all that matters, right, is that you face into the data and you have a bias towards action and you course correct as you go. And I have every confidence that hundreds of people in this room are going to be standing here a year and a half from now being proud that you're at zero on homelessness. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk to all of you, and I'm going to be cheering on you, cheering you for sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you. That was kind of fun.